this was as little as just a day or two after the mothers presented with COVID-19. About a week after they presented with COVID-19. What they found here was about 80 G and or IgG in their breast milk. And what was fascinating about this study, which certainly promotes the use of breast milk, mother's own milk, for infants with COVID-19, born to mothers with COVID-19, was that when they took live SARS-CoV-2 and they inoculated it into the breast milk samples that they knew had antibodies within them, they could not grow the virus. So the mothers are producing antibodies within a week of delivery, which are capable of preventing growth of SARS achievement. Again, one more study to support came out. It was the follow-up study from New York that I mentioned before, which looked at a much larger cohort of 116 mothers who tested positive out of 1,481 deliveries. And what they found here, which was in strong support of keeping mothers together and also breastfeeding, was that almost all mothers, 80% or 83%, roomed in with their babies. All were allowed to breastfeed, who were breastfeeding and using rooming in. What they also found, which was very interesting, I think, was much like I'd said before in the Canadian experience, about 15% wound up being admitted to the NICU. That is precisely what was seen here as well. 15% of neonates needed to be admitted. Some places will be wanting to use donor breast milk, and I just wanted to include this to demonstrate. They took samples of breast milk and they put the breast milk through Holder pasteurization. They also froze them. What they found was the one on the left is figure A is Holder pasteurization, showing that they could not grow the virus once you put the samples through Holder pasteurization. However, when you froze or put it in cold storage at 4 degrees or -30, the virus actually would grow. So this is a message to units everywhere. Just because you've got your milk in the freezer doesn't mean that that milk is going to necessarily be sent in the NICU. Here in Winnipeg, we've got 2 paths for COVID positive mothers, either postpartum ward, which raises numerous questions for you to think about in your own units. How does the mother isolate in her hospital room? Where does she shower? What about food? How do you prevent strolling through the hallways? Generally, the best approach here would be to discharge home as soon as possible, so you get mom and baby at home where they can continue their isolation. NICUs present a very difficult situation where, until they're cleared by IPNC, we assume the partners of these mothers are assumed to be positive, so they can't visit either. So who do you then have to support these children? And how do you get milk from home to the newborn if mother's pumping? Difficult questions, but things that your units all need to think about. For anyone that is interested, in the interest of time, I won't go through this, except to say we have developed a protocol for mothers who wish to pump at home and deliver the milk to their babies in the hospital. The highlight here is that this milk is not brought in directly to the unit. It is brought to the front door of our hospital and processed at the front door with proper cleaning before it is brought up. I'm certainly happy to provide you with our protocols. As far as visiting goes, and I don't quite understand this, we allow 2 visitors allowed during the daytime, but only 1 support person can stay overnight. Why it's not 2 support people overnight and what happens at night that magically decreases the number by 50%, I don't know, but in case you're wondering, that's what we do. So conclusions. I think that it is very unclear as to why some countries are reporting lower rates of preterm birth. The US is not generally, at least from the Philadelphia study, that's just one center study reporting lower rates, although as I mentioned, it's hard to ignore the impact in